And I just was standing there in the crowd and I was like, my friends are too damn talented for me to work a
Mm.
day job and not put all of my energy and effort into this. But, I'm putting all of that energy and work into learning how to help my friends play their instruments and play music as much as they can. And a lot of people ask me, hey, like, when should I quit my day job and like just put all my time into music? And my philosophy on it for so long was like, do it like when it feels natural to make that shift. And that's what happened for me. And I really am glad that I took that route. I think it's always like focused around the love for the music though, because at the end of the day, like if you don't love the music, I feel like it's not going to keep you going. So if you're sitting there listening to this thinking, should I jump into the music industry and quit my day job, or should I keep on the path I'm going and do it, as a gradual thing? My best advice would be do what feels right. And
Mm.
you're not going to regret going after something that you're thinking about going after for a long time.
All right, everybody, welcome to A Path Unfolding. Today's guest is Jared Oppenheim. He is an artist manager, talent buyer, and label curator. He is the founder of The Gradient Perspective, and he is also an artist manager with Mammoth Music Group. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm stoked to be here, stoked to chat with you.
Just most recently got to hang out with you at Pretty Lights, and I got to take my 75-year-old father there, and we got to share a beverage and watch, obviously, Derek swirl us, and that was really cool to hang out. And then we had a Gravitas Showcase after party, Public Works. So thank you for bringing us on to that event. Thank you for everything that you did for that tour. And it was so good to see you. How was all that for you?
Yeah, it was really awesome. And I think you kind of nailed it on the head there. One of the coolest parts and like my favorite aspect of like doing all these after parties all around the country wasn't just, being able to bring together so many talented artists, but something that I've always wanted to do since I started being an artist, I started running a record label, even throwing shows, is like bridge communities together. Because there's so many awesome communities. Like if you look all over Canada and the US and Australia, New Zealand, like, and even far beyond all those places, there's just people just like you and me who love the music and love putting on events and bringing people together on the dance floor. And being able to do that with so many people who I look up to and respect and love working with, like you guys and Benji and the Wormhole crew, the Notion Swamp Woofer team out in Chicago for the after parties there, just like all over. Just got to work with so many people that I love working with and so many new teams as well. And it was just awesome to like see everyone working together to like throw these after parties and, collaborate on them, not just the lineups, but the logistics and the production and making them extra special was so awesome. And it was like the culmination of everything I've wanted to do with like throwing shows and managing artists. So that was awesome.
Yeah, I think it really does highlight your vast amount of talents and abilities and the way that you really did curate all of these after parties. Also, like the triumphant return of Derek and Pretty Lights. And I think their show and what they are bringing to the table musically really shows like what I think we all have been working on for the last 10 years of like the integration of live instrumentation and the way that whole set was put together, some of the visuals and the lighting and everything was just top tier. So props on that. And I guess just to tie that together, like Pretty Lights is part of Mammoth Music Group, right?
For sure, yeah. I don't have a direct hand in all these shows that are happening. That is the whole Mammoth Music Group team, and they've done such an amazing job of not just, making sure that this Pretty Lights comeback is well organized and, for the fam, but also just like the production is top notch. Everything is run so well. And, I've done my own thing through the Gradient Perspective since I want to say it was like 2012 is when I started throwing my first shows, and Gradient Perspective technically started in like 2015. But just being able to see how this team operates and, learning so much from some of their bigger artists like Maddie O'Neill and Manic Focus and Break Science and Dirt Wire, I've been able to learn so much about, putting on together shows and just how to level up our game. And I think that's such an important part of the music industry too, is collaborating with people because, we can all do things on our own. I did it for so many years by myself, just learning the ropes and learning how to do things by trial and error. But working with teams who have done the things before and, are open to showing you like how they do it, it really helps me and my artist teams just, figure out what we want to do and how we can raise the bar. But yeah, the inspiration from Pretty Lights has been incredible. I mean, even just seeing friends and talking to people at these shows, bringing some of my artists out or other artists that I'm friends with to these shows, and they're like, wow, this is like, instruments, bass music. It's what we've been trying to do and what we've been kind of trying to push forward for so long. So to see like Pretty Lights come back, not just as a solo artist, but also like, him bringing back Michael Menner and Borum and Alvin and Chris Carnes. Like it's such a team environment. It's not just about one person. It's truly like a living, breathing experiment of music that they're doing, both on the production side, on the music side, just all around. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think I would like end that with my dad. I got to take my 75-year-old dad there, and he's a bass player. He loves music. He has a company where he makes wood for guitars and sells that to Fender Music. So he's all about the music, but sometimes the
Nice.
electronic music doesn't always connect with him. But when he was watching that show, he was like, yeah, he could feel that it was real and it was live and it was happening and there was opportunity for people to mess up and there were people playing like real instruments and they were in the pocket and they were really all working together. And I think that's one of the things, like, from our older generation, or maybe, people that don't vibe with electronic music, all feels very pre-planned and like kind of mapped out. And I think people that love live music want to see that on the edge, that risk, like, oh, he could mess up or break a string or something like that. So I think again, like they've nailed it. Yeah, so let's take it back. How did you first get involved in music? Where did all of this start? What's your story?
Yeah. So if we take it all the way back to a time when there were CD players still around, there was this CD called Herbal Beats 2. My sister was a DJ on her college radio station, and it was like a compilation that had like Crystal Method and Rabbit in the Moon and all this like old school breaks and drum and bass. And like at the time, I was probably like, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old. Like I didn't know anything about electronic music. I didn't know what a genre was. Like, I just had this CD in my CD player. And I remember I would like, when my family would take like a road trip somewhere, I would just have it on repeat and listen to these songs all the time. Fast forward like another like probably 11 or 12 years. I was in college. I was hanging out with friends who were kind of introducing me to electronic music. We'd be driving around and I'd hear like different songs, in my head as we were listening to songs in the car. And then I was like, I could probably like start mixing music together. I hear them in my head. I want to put them into real life. And then I started DJing. I had a friend in college who, he was like a DJ, and he gave me this like controller where you plug an iPod in and then it like takes tracks from your iPod. So we hosted like a Special Olympics on our college campus, and I DJ'd the Special Olympics like bocce ball tournament. And that was actually my first ever DJ gig. And then that turned into like DJing our parties and stuff. And, I was going to a lot of shows probably around like 2010 to 2012. And like some of my big influences then were like Miro, Flux Pavilion, Skrillex, of course. And I just started DJing shows, and I tried to like DJ a bunch of bars because that's what I saw, opportunities around all the time in college. And I quickly learned like I'm not like a typical like four on the floor house, like play like whatever in the club kind of person. I like very like niche stuff, and I'm not good at playing stuff that just doesn't speak to me or that I don't like.
Hmm.
So I just started playing like weird stuff that I found and I liked. And my friends and I would share music back and forth all the time. And I actually remember my first like collective that I found on SoundCloud, and I met up with a bunch of people just like on SoundCloud through SoundCloud messages. And we started a Facebook group just to connect, and we started putting out music together. And that really blossomed into some really amazing friendships that, I'm still best friends with a lot of these people from now it's probably like 8 years ago, just because we found each other on SoundCloud and we loved each other's music. But yeah, that was like the roots of it all for me. And I really wanted to start playing shows, but obviously I like no one knew who I was. I didn't know anyone, and I didn't really have music out there or mixes. So I just started recording mixes for my friends, sending them around. This was very big when like you would message people on Facebook being like, "Hey, I just put out a new mix. Like, I would really love if you would listen to it." And I would just try and get my music out there any way I could. I know some of my friends had like CDs that they would pass out at the raves, like as people were leaving. And I was like, that's such a good idea. Like, I still have some of those CDs to this day, even though I don't have a way to play them. And then in like I think it was 2011 and
Oh,
2012, I lived in DC, and I ran into a friend I grew up with, and he's like a vinyl DJ that doesn't really do a lot of electronic, but he had like vinyl DJ nights, and we kind of just wanted to team up and throw our own shows that were like different than your typical club shows. And trap was really big at the time. It was like Flostradamus time, really. Like, that was the time for trap music and Moonbaton. And so we started this show called Trapitol Hill in DC, and we would rent like empty storefronts that we just saw like four leaves on the side of the road for like one night. We'd be like, "Hey, here's like $1,000 or $2,000. Like, just let us use the room. You're not liable for anything." We had like a clicker at the door. I remember like the first bar we ever ran was we didn't have like a cash register or a point of sale or anything. We just had like a big cardboard box and like some alcohol bottles and like cases of beer. And like my friend who I was starting the show with, his sister would like take the cash and like throw it in the cardboard box and like give people the drinks. And like, we were at Ding, of course. It was all like pretty legal, but yeah, that was the start of like my love for throwing shows and bringing people together. Um, and it's just kind of blossomed over the years from like, throwing some, semi renegade shows in empty storefronts with sound systems we brought in, to, throwing shows all around the country with my friends and bringing in artists who have inspired me through the years. And, I think it's always like focused around the love for the music though, because at the end of the day, like, if you don't love the music, I feel like it's not going to keep you going.
yeah, 100%. I think the other lesson I'm hearing too is like you've you've just been willing to like roll up your sleeves and try and do the work and not really be scared to fail. I mean, all of that in that story is just like, well, I'll just try it. We'll just do it. We'll see how it goes. And kind of not. It sounds like you're not being too caught up in like, oh, we got to be the biggest, we got to be the best. It's just like about having fun. It's about music. Love that. And yet, I think a lot of, it seems like a lot of what you're doing is really rooted in community and bringing people together, and that's, I think that when some people talk about music, they really are talking about the music, but I think when you're saying about that, it's really about the like everybody coming together and the community and experiencing the music, which is a whole nother level. So yeah, love that, man.
Yeah, I think like knowing that there's other people. When I went to like the G Jones Red Rock show recently, and they had like Amon Tobin Two Fingers and like all this incredible music that if you were to just like put it on a commercial on like the Super Bowl or something, people would probably be like, "What is this? Like, this is
Mhm.
different. I don't think I'm into this." But like seeing a sold out Red Rock show where everyone is just so into this, like it's cool to see people coming together through music that we all love so much that is different.
Yeah, especially when it's experimental in nature. Like, I mean, Amon Tobin for sure. It can be challenging. It can be very difficult to, it's not something you're maybe gonna throw on in the car to jam to. But like you said, if you get to see the full experience live, it's like, whoa, that was unique. Yeah. So yeah, yeah. No, I just saw G Jones's show in Austin, and Anna Morgan was one of his openers, and she tore the roof off the place. And I really have been inspired by her. Of met her recently, and like she really took it all over. And then they had Ivy Lab as direct support, and of course, those guys are phenomenal. And then yeah, I think he was built to do a drum and bass set, but he really was like, I think I'm just gonna play everything I want to play. And so yeah, just like you said, and just to see people come together and not, you know, it's amazing to see like these Taylor Swift tours or Beyonce tours, and they're like the size and the scope and the money. But yeah, I'm always rooting for the underground to take the cake. So yeah, let's talk about Gradient Perspective. How did that start? I know you kind of said it was I think as early days of throwing shows, but then it kind of led into being a label. So tell me about that.
Yeah, that's a really great story I love to tell because, you know, as Choppy Oppy, as an artist, um, 2010, 2011, 2012 was when I kind of started like DJing, and 2013, 2014, 2015 it was kind of when I really started to like get some steam, and, you know, was playing a lot of shows, was putting out a lot of mixes, and, you know, just like kind of engaging with people and like being like, hey, I'm DJing, like, you know, this is the music, you should check it out. I think you'll love it. It's always been about sharing the music. And so I was getting booked for like tons of shows. I was getting myself on a fair bit of festivals, you know, locally and around the East Coast. And I was just like, you know, I have so many friends who, in my opinion, you know, they may disagree, but I think they make such better music than I'll ever make. And I've just always been like, yo, like if I'm playing these shows, like you guys should be playing these shows and more. Like there's no reason I should be playing these shows and you shouldn't. Like you make better music than me. So I started just kind of like throwing my friends' names around, being like, hey, like I could play the show, but like actually you should have the business or Sketchy Pete or Agent Zero or Beat Kitty play one of these shows because, you know, they're really incredible. And you may not know about them like you know about me, but trust me, you're going to love them even more than you love me. So, you know, that's kind of how it started. I was just like, hey, what if I just like, it wasn't even like formal management or anything. I was just like, let me help you get on shows. Like, I love what you're doing and I want to support it. And, you know, I think there's way more benefit to you sharing your music than me sharing, you know, your music and other people's music. Cause I've always been more of a DJ than a producer. I've still produced music and, you know, to this day, I have a bunch of tracks. I'm coming soon, you know. But yeah, that's kind of how it all started. I was putting friends on shows, and then I think one of them was like, "Yo, why don't you just like be my manager?" And at the time, you know, I definitely did not think anything about being like a artist manager or like that this would be kind of where my path leads. I was just like, yeah, like, you know, I'll manage you, I'll help you get shows, we'll figure out how to put music out in the world. And then that's kind of how the label side of things started, is started managing them on the show side. And I was like, well, I should really, you know, the goal is to get the music out there. Like you guys make such good music, and it's like, yeah, we can post on social media and, you know, we can tell people about it, but, you know, I really want to help get this incredible music out into the world. Like there's literally people all around the world that will like this when they hear it. They just have never heard it before. So
Hmm.
I think like 2015 to 2017 was really like where we started building the label side of things. And then 2017 is when the label actually officially like started. We got a account with Symphonic after like a lot of research on different labels and distribution strategies and stuff. And Symphonic was just like, this is exactly what we're looking for. And then Ali Grimm, who also was my partner at the time, and we kind of like built up the label and the Gradient Perspective from 2017 to 2019. And that was like really when I was working for Yelp doing like corporate ad sales, which was pretty much my definition of hell on earth. But I was like, you know, I need a
Yeah.
job. I just graduated from college. So I was like, you know, working it was not even a 9 to 5. It was like 8:30 to 5:30 with an hour mandatory break in the middle of the day at the same time as everyone else. And I was like, you know, still doing Gradient Perspective, still managing artists. I started working with Smokeland around this time. I was working with Fide, like so many incredible artists who are just like doing such amazing things these days. And they were doing things, you know, back then too. But like, I never thought that music management, wasn't like my career is in music. Like, you know, it's just like, this is my passion. I want to help my friends and I love playing shows too. And cool, like we start a record label, we'll see where it goes. You know, we'll help push people's music out there. Like the goal has always just been like steady growth. I'm not like, we need to do this by a certain time, or we need to achieve this amount of like listeners, or, you know, this amount of revenue or anything. You know, it's just always been about seeing growth, you know, month after month, year after year. And I think that's like, for me at least, that's been such a good approach to the music industry because I've seen so many friends, so many colleagues, so many people who I just like see from afar who I've never even met, like, start something really cool. I see their heart is in the right place, but it's really easy to get burnt out here because it's kind of like a thankless job in the music industry. You're just always doing something. There's always releases to be planned. There's always tours rolling out. There's always festival seasons, and I think that if you focus too hard on like needing to be somewhere or needing to get certain gigs or needing to just like have a certain amount of success, it's a really good way to, kind of be like, you can get down on yourself like, oh, I didn't achieve this goal, or, I'm not where other people are right now. And, the music industry is, it's bringing back to the swirl bridge, it is literally a big swirl. Like, I actually love the swirl emoji for so many reasons, because it's like, yeah, it's a coincidence in life. You can just use the swirl emoji. There's a period in my life where I was like, when I would have a crazy coincidence at like a show, like let's say we were listening to like a really random song on the way to a show. And it's like, you'd never hear that song, like, in a million years. And then one of the artists like plays a remix of it. And you're just like, whoa, like I would say that's a swirl emoji. But yeah, so I would just kind of, that's just how everything's growing, we just try to see incremental growth. Oh, and then I think the biggest like changes, I went from Yelp sales to being a mortgage broker during the pandemic in like 2020. And that, 2020 was such a scary time for everyone in the music industry. Everyone just stopped. Like, we were just like, oh, I was on tour with Zechibo, and this was my first Choppy Oppie like national headlining tour. It was like such a cool experience. And, it was actually called the Force Reset Tour, ironically. And exactly halfway through the tour, it was March of 2020. We were in San Francisco playing at Sound Pieces. It was awesome. And on the Uber ride into the city, the Uber driver is like, oh yeah, see that like cruise ship over there? That's where like everyone has COVID on the ship and they won't let them off. And like me and Zechibo looked at each other and we're like, maybe we shouldn't be here. But
Yeah.
and then we
Oh
came back the
man.
next day. I literally took a red eye flight, flew back to DC, went to my day job at Yelp selling ads. And that morning they were like, yeah, everyone's going home, and it might be temporary, but here's a computer, like go do work at home. And after that, it was like, the music industry shut down. We all went to live streams. I mean, everyone knows how it felt. And then when things kind of ramped back up late in 2021, I left my job at Yelp, still didn't ever think like my career was in music. Like, I was just doing it because I love to do it. And I wanted to like be involved with my friends and do all the things that we've been doing for, at that point, it had been almost 8 years. Um, and then I became a mortgage broker. And as music came back, things started really like popping off with all of our artists. I had started representing Josh Teeps shortly before that, probably like it might have even been during COVID. I know I started working with Josh like in the middle of COVID when nothing was going on. We were just like, yeah, like let's do this. Like, we don't know what's going to happen, but we know we want to work together, and we know that, whatever happens, we're going to do it together. And then, when things started coming back at the end of 2021, I just got so busy with, I was throwing shows in DC before COVID. And then once we came back to throwing shows in 2021, it was just like a lot. And there was more shows from all my artists, more artists that I was representing, more label releases. I think we were doing like 2 or 3 a month. And it was just like, I got so busy doing all the music things that I was working, probably 9, 10 hours a day at my day job, and then like 7, 8 hours a day doing music, and then sleeping the little bit that I could on top of that, that I just got to a point. And this was always the point that I was kind of like pushing myself towards. I was always like, I'm not going to like quit my day job until I'm like forced to do it, until there's like a split where it's like I can do one or the other. Because, I living in DC, I had really expensive rent, even when I was trying to like split rooms with people and like make rent as cheap as possible. You got bills to pay. I was just like, I wanted to keep my day job as long as I could. And that was always like my plan. I was like, I'm not going to just leave my day job and go do music full time. Like, if music got so busy that I would have to leave my day job and didn't have a choice, that's what I would do. But I never really thought that they would come. And it was actually while me and Josh were on tour with Manic Focus in late 2021, when we were in Charlotte playing at the Music Yard, and I was watching Josh Teed play. I think this was like one of the first few times I had like seen him play a set before. And there was a song that he was playing. I think it's a Avello collab. And I just was standing there in the crowd and I was like, my friends are too damn talented for me to work a day job and not put all of my energy and effort into this. Like, they're just incredible and they deserve like 100% of my time. Like, I shouldn't be doing a job that, you know, I don't. Calio Scintilla has a quote in one of his songs. It's like, you know, a job that doesn't inspire me creatively and I could do this for the rest of my life. Or I could wake up at noon and learn to play the sitar. And like, I'm not learning to play the sitar right now, but you know, I'm putting all of that energy and work into learning how to help my friends play their instruments and play music as much as they can. And I always told people, like, a lot of people ask me, hey, like, when should I quit my day job and like just put all my time into music? And my philosophy on it for so long was like, do it like when it feels natural to make that shift. And that's what happened for me. And I really am glad that I took that route. But I think there's so much to be said for taking a leap before you're even ready. And like, I don't have any regrets. Like, I'm very happy with how things are going and like, you know, all of the sequence of events that led to, you know, where we are talking right now. But part of me is like, you know, maybe I should have just 5 years earlier been like, I'm just going to go all in on the music industry and like devote all my time to this and not work at Yelp selling ads. And like, yeah, it probably would have been a little tougher, but I don't know. So if you're sitting there listening to this thinking, should I jump into the music industry and quit my day job, or should I keep on the path I'm going and do it, you know, as a gradual thing? My best advice would be do what feels right. And you're not going to regret going after something that you're thinking about going after for a long time.
Wow, that's great, man. And yeah, a couple of things there. One, Josh Teed is incredibly talented. The whole roster of artists that you represent are all crazy talented. I think there's some common threads throughout the type of artists you work with. In terms of leaving your job, yeah, man, I've gotten that question a lot too, and it is, there's no right answer, right? There's only a right answer for you. And I think your advice to like listen to your heart, you'll know when you know. You know, when we're talking about artists specifically, it's like I get that of like, when should I get a manager? When should I get an agent? And it really is like kind of analogous to what you're saying is like, when you have enough going on, when there's enough demand and you're sort of being split, when you're like, I need to make a choice. Like, it's not, you don't want to jump the gun on that. Like, wait until it really gets to the point where you can like, you really have to make a decision. And I think then you'll know which way you need to go. And the, you know, the answer starts to reveal itself. So I think that's great advice for sure. What about like, what do you look for in artists as you decide to either manage them or assign them to the label? What are some of the qualities you look for? Do you need to have met them first? Is there an existing relationship, or do sometimes you just hear their music and go, I gotta work with this person? Or is it all of that or something in between?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I love to tell the story about the first time Josh Teed asked me to manage him back in 2019. And I admittedly did not know who Josh Teed was. Like, I had heard a couple of his songs and I liked them, but, you know, I'd never really heard of him before. And he approached me and he asked me to manage him. And I'm like, hey, dude, I really love your music, but, you know, I'm not really sure if you need a manager at this point. You're kind of still growing. You know, my best advice to you would be keep doing your thing. And my advice to everyone is like, the right manager will find you when the time is right. Because more often than not, like, if you're doing your thing and people are picking up on it, you know, someone who is hungry and eager to work with really developing artists who are passionate about what they do and are working hard, you know, we're out there looking for those people. And when the time is right, like, we reach out to those people and we're like, hey, we see you. And like, you know, we'd be open to starting a conversation about working with you. And seeing if it would be a good fit. Um, that did not happen with me and Josh. He literally asked me, and I was like, no, like, go, I don't know who you are. And then a year later, he actually hit me up again. And he's like, yo, so I'm asking you again, like, do you want to work together? And I was like, yes, I should have said yes a year ago. Like, I was so stupid. So that was like a different instance where, you know, he came to me and I should have just been like, yeah, as soon as it happened. But I'm glad we had a chance to reconnect, you know, a year later. But my best advice would be, you know, what I'm looking for is someone who's going to work just as hard as me or harder, because there's so many artists out there who are incredibly talented and, you know, have something really special going, but, you know, for whatever reason, their head isn't like 100% in the game. And of course it's cyclical. Like, you know, your head shouldn't be 100% in the game all the time. Like, you know, that's how you get burnt out, and it's good to take breaks. But like, for me, I really need to see like that you're hustling and that you're working really hard, because I know, like, I've worked with some artists before who aren't working super hard, or just like, you know, they have other things going on. And, you know, it's tough to kind of, it feels like as a manager working with an artist that's, you know, in that space at that moment, you're kind of pulling them along. And if the artist is working harder than the manager, which is why I would kind of recommend not asking, I wouldn't say never, like Josh Teed asked me, and so that was a great, you know, time. But I typically tell people not to ask people if they would manage them, because you don't know necessarily how hard that manager is working. And if you ask someone who, you know, maybe it's not their prime focus as being an artist manager, if they want to work with you and you're working really hard, then you're kind of pulling that manager along. And there's always like this push and pull in these different manager artist relationships. But the ones that really like feel so natural and take off is when both the artist and the manager are both working equally as hard. And they're just both, you know, coming to the table with ideas. You know, they're always checking in, they're always communicating. Those are like the best things to do. And if you're an artist who's looking for a manager, you know, you think you're ready to take that next step, maybe the best way to do it is not to just outright like ask a manager, like, hey, will you manage me? It's to be like, hey, I really like what you're doing. Maybe we could set aside like 30 minutes sometime to have like a discovery call. I can show you what I'm working on and where I want to take the project. And then we can kind of go from there. And, you know, when you start, it's so much like a relationship, like in life, where you don't want to just jump into someone to like a manager artist relationship, you know, right off the bat. You want to get to know them. You want to see if you have similar styles of working together, similar values. Like, you know, you just like being together sometimes. Like, it's a really weird manager artist relationship if it feels like, you know, when you're with someone, you don't want to be with them because maybe you don't like them or you just don't vibe for some reason. And that makes it super awkward. But I'd say the biggest thing is to make it undeniable about what you're doing and like setting yourself apart. And then just like, you know, make it more about just like management. Like, it's not like all the artists I work with, the thing I really love about my job, and, you know, every day I probably work like more than I ever would at like a corporate job, but it doesn't feel like work because all of the artists I work with, like, they're not clients to me. They're my best friends. They're my family. Like, you know, what we have is like, it's not just a client agent artist relationship. It's like a friendship, and we don't just care about each other's success. Like, we care about how each other are doing in life and, like, you know, on a personal level. And I think, you know, obviously you don't need that. Like, a lot of teams are not like that. And there's like, you know, it's not a one size fits all. In the whole music industry, there's never going to be like a one size fits all opportunity or, you know, type of person for the right artist or job. But, you know, something that just inspires me to keep going so much is that connection with my artists. And, you know, just, we love to see each other win, and we love to make sure that, you know, we're not just successful getting shows or putting out music, but, you know, we're happy and we feel truly invested in our projects. And it's like a genuine representation of the artists themselves.
Yeah, love that. I mean, you're doing a lot, right? You're still actively booking and promoting shows. You're an artist manager. You're also your own artist, making mixes. You had a mix on Deep, Dark, and Dangerous not too long ago. How are you balancing all this? How are you prioritizing that? Do you have a clear priority list? Is it sort of artist management first and then your own artist project? Do you feel like the those things are in conflict?
So it's funny because one of the first jobs in music I ever had, working for a promo company, I remember my boss being like, you can't be an artist and work in music at the same time. Like you have to pick one or the other. And like the people who know me know, like if you tell me I can't do something, I'm just gonna want to do it even more. Like so I feel like him telling me that was like honestly fuel for like everything I've done since then. Because I'm like, no, I will be an artist and I will work in the music industry. And I think I can find like a really good marriage of the two. But I will say, like, for sure, over the last like 2 years, I've kind of put Choppy Oppy and my artistry on the back seat. When I talk to people about booking artists, when I'm pitching artists, when I'm doing pretty much anything managerial, I don't pitch Choppy Oppy. I don't talk about Choppy Oppy. Sometimes, actually, like a lot of the time when I'm like booking an artist for an event or working with a promoter, they'll like look at my Instagram or something, I guess, and then they'll hit me up and they'll be like, yo, I had no idea you were Choppy Oppy. And I'm just like, that's good. Like, I'm really trying to like, not play the Choppy Oppy card or, I don't want to like, I want my artists to have the opportunities that are coming our way. And so I feel like, if I put myself in a position where I'm like trying to push myself over one of my artists, that would definitely be a conflict of interest. But I've honestly, like, even when I was just starting out, like, bringing it back to like starting to manage my friends because I thought they made better music than me. I was always like, well, you should book my friends before you should book me because they make way better music. So it's definitely been interesting though, because like I still love making music and it's kind of given me a different approach to being an artist where I don't feel pressured to maybe put out music or, do any type of like content posting calendar. So yeah, it's definitely, I've had to find a balance of still like being Choppy Oppy and like being an artist myself. But I feel like right now it's really nice where the gigs I get are because people just reach out and they're like, I want to book Choppy Oppy and not me being like, hey, you should book me for a show. And I really like how that's been working. But balancing everything is a whole different thing. And I've tried a lot of different methods. I tried like scheduling my days where it's like these hours I'm working on this artist and these hours I'm working on my DC shows and these hours I'm like pitching events and like, all these different things. And I'm like not a super structured person where I like can kind of look at a calendar and be like, all right, I'm spending hours on this because I'm like, my brain is like, well, yeah, you're doing these things, but like these are for months from now, and you have a show this weekend for these artists, and merch still needs to be advanced, or like I know there's like a 6 to 8 week merch turnaround time, and we need merch for an artist by this time. So the way I've kind of really balanced everything is I kind of like in my head keep track of what is like top priority as far as like what needs to be done the soonest, or what's kind of coming up. And then I have like a master doc calendar and to-do list for each of my artists that, we go over every time we meet, which is probably like a couple times a week. And, we'll go through that. But definitely like the priorities, it's like I know there are big things coming up and like those kind of take precedence. And I'm so lucky that the shows I throw in DC, I have two amazing companies that we partner with, which are Para Presents and Closed Sessions. And then we also have like a whole staff that helps put on those shows. We have a marketing director, Ali. Kalila is our record label manager. We have Dan and Peter and Max who all run our DC shows, along with my partners, Matt from Closed Sessions and Carter from Para Presents. And so like, it's been absolutely incredible having teams working together to make these things happen. And I think up until like, 2017, 2018, I was pretty much doing everything for Gradient Perspective myself. And it was just like, I couldn't do it these days with the amount of things we're doing. It's really so important as you grow and you scale to build a team of amazing people around you who aren't just, into what you're doing or want to like help, but they actually are like, they think critically of how we do things. And they're always like, hey, maybe we can do it this way, or maybe we can look to do things like this. always just the steady growth is so important. And I feel like seeing that steady growth over time has really allowed us to, bring on staff as, everything just feels so natural with like how we do things. We're not like, well, we need a person right now. Like we should just hire anyone. Like I never want to just kind of jump to do things hastily. It's always like, okay, we're going in this direction. Like, how can we continue going in this direction and take it even further? So that's really how I've had to balance things. It's like prioritizing what's most important and working with amazing people who just like help make it all happen. Cause like it's not a one man show, and, not just our staff, but even our community. Like everyone is so incremental in making everything happen, from supporting artists, buying tickets, buying merch, coming to our shows, sharing posts. Even like a lot of people don't see it as like a big act these days, like pre-saving music. But, it's not just like the action of pre-saving that song. You're not just like clicking a button and pre-saving for that artist. Like you're helping support that artist. You're helping that artist be able to reach you again, after you've saved the song, update you with future releases, let you know when merch comes out. All these things, it doesn't cost a ton of money to like share a post, or it doesn't cost any money to share a post or pre-save a song. But, all those things mean so much to all of the artists. And that's what keeps everyone going.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, the team aspect is so huge. I mean, again, I think you and I share a lot in common when it comes to like my DJ career. And I really didn't thrive on trying to promote myself. I really enjoyed kind of wanting to bring people together and finding talented artists and then pushing them and being really excited about their project and helping them find their way through things, helping them with their strategy, their branding and their marketing and things like that. So I definitely resonate with that. And it took a little bit of the pressure off me. And I was like very, as Closey and Symbionic and Up the Trees and different artists that we worked with started to take off. Like I just started to backburn my own DJ career more and more. And it really was like the kind of again, like we were talking about, it felt natural to go in that direction. I know I struggled with that, like the balance of it. Like how do we, and sort of like what you said, the conflict of interest, like, well, I can't be self-serving in this deal and I shouldn't even be talking about my project at all. So that's really interesting. I think, it's cool that your project is still getting looks and people know it, and you're going on tours and getting to play shows. That's really great that you're able to do all of that at once. In terms of the prioritization, like, and how you're able to balance all that, that's, again, yeah, the teams are so huge. Like with Gravitas, like Nick and Maya and Alicia, without them working every day to make it what it is, like there's no way we could do what we do. I mean, it's just they're so vital, they're so critical, and that passion and that, I mean, honestly, to some extent, the youth and the fire and the belly, like we all need that. It's a hard game. It takes a lot of work and dedication. And then the other thing that you said that I keep hearing is it's like it's showing up every day, and just for the little wins, day by day, brick by brick, song by song, fan by fan, not being too focused on like we've got to play a Red Rock show or we've got to have a sold out show. It's really about that consistency. And I think there's so much to that, because like it's not the straight path to success. There's going to be bad days and good days and ups and downs, and then you might lose focus a little bit. There might be a month where you're not really working on it as hard as you always have. But consistency, consistently good is better than like every once in a while you're being great. So I love that. And I think that the small wins start to build and make the big wins. And I mean, that's how you see amazing things happen, is it's just like little pieces, brick by brick, being built to create something amazing. And I think that the lesson there for people is like you have to start, and you may not know the clear path to where you're going, but it starts to unfold, and then again, it's a path unfolding. Like we're discovering who we are and what we are and what makes us excited and what our passion is by trying things. if we don't try things, if we're scared to try things, then you'll never know. You know, I think Gary Vee talks about this a lot, where he says, like, you just got to try. If you're in your 20s or in your 30s, or you don't know what you want to do, it doesn't matter what your age is. If you don't know what you want to do, you just got to try stuff. And then you'll learn about yourself through that. You'll learn that you don't like that. Maybe you're not an early bird, or you don't like always having to interface with people, or what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses? And then you have more information to make better choices. And you might get lucky, and it might be the first thing you try, and that's your dream job, or that's your dream career, and that's your passion, and that's all you ever want to do. Or you might try that, you learn, you fail, you grow, you try something new, and then, you know, it just rinse and repeat. And I also think too, like, we have these chapters in our lives, and it's important to recognize when one chapter ends and a new chapter starts. And sometimes that's predicated upon, like, maybe you're graduating college, or you're getting married, or you're by your house, or you get your first real job, or it's just a time in your life, you know. And sometimes a friend moves away, or you move to a different place. Those are these natural chapters. And so I think when those chapters happen, it's really important to take a deep look at yourself and an inventory of what fills you up, what makes you excited, what gives you passion, and then and then go out and try new things, go out and try new stuff. So I really feel like you've done so much of that, maybe knowingly or unknowingly, but I really love the fact that it seems like you're unafraid to try. And I think that bravery, it gives people, there's so much reward at the other end of that. I just want to kind of end cap that with that note.
To kind of jump off that, I love that you mentioned that, because I recently read in a book, it's so important to celebrate your wins, or not even necessarily wins, just like, you know, when things end, like, for instance, like a school semester, when it ends, you know, or for us, it's actually translated to when we have a show that concludes, like a show we throw in DC, or with an artist when we do a release, or any like project that we're working on that then like kind of it may not even come to an end. Like, you know, once the release comes out, you're still promoting it afterwards. Like, it's still out there reaching people. But like our shows are a really good example of it, because once you have a show, it's on a day, but leading up to the show is a whole marketing cycle. And even before the marketing cycle, sometimes you have, 2 to even like 12 months of negotiations around the show and planning. And then like the show happens, and like everyone comes to the show, and what most people see is like the show itself. And they're like, they come, they hear really great music, they meet people, they see their friends, they go home, and like that's the conclusion of it. But like, especially like when I wear my promoter hat, I'm like, we throw shows every month. Like, we are doing so many shows, especially in DC, just like constantly repeating this cycle. And I think that if you don't stop and just kind of be like, hey, like, we just did a show, that was awesome, like whether it sold a lot of tickets or not, like, it was a safe event. We always have our harm reduction team out there who's really amazing, and all of our community and staff, and all of these people, they deserve to be celebrated, because they come out and they show up, and they also help us make the experience what it is. And it's just really important to always, like, even internally, you can, of course, like, kind of communicate it to everyone as well. But even if you're just like one person throwing your own shows or doing your own thing right now, like, it's so important to not just like move on to the next thing without acknowledging to yourself, hey, we did that and that was awesome. And like, yeah, we're about to move on to the next thing, but just even if it's like one brief acknowledgement in your head, or, a party, you could have a pizza party to celebrate. Like, just acknowledging that is so important.
I love a pizza party. Who doesn't love a pizza party?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with my web agency, we were often doing project retrospectives. We're looking at what worked, what didn't. Sometimes we're looking at the profitability of the project. Where did we spend the hours? If what gets measured gets improved. And so even just taking the time for everybody to regroup and go like, how was it for you? What could we have done better? What worked? What didn't work? Where, was everything safe? Like you're saying, like, those types of conversations are really important. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. There's a lot of great communication. Things are top of the mind. And then it's also a chance to try to break habits. If this is like a consistent problem that we're having, okay, we're going to stop and we're going to figure out in this conversation, what's the one or two things that we can do next time to kind of help keep that from happening again. So very smart, wise words right there. Well, we're kind of coming up on time. Like, I want to see like what's next for you. What's exciting? Is there a big picture? Is there a big goal that you have in mind for the next couple of years? But obviously, all your artists are doing really well. Can't wait to see you guys at Lightning in a Bottle. I know we're going to have a big year, and we've got the Texas Eclipse Festival happening. A bunch of your artists on that. There's a rumor that I might be running one of the stages, unconfirmed.
Oh,
But I mean, we are gonna party. Like, I don't know what it is when the sun goes
were you at
away.
the
we're
Oregon
just
Eclipse gathering?
I was not. I was not. I'm very sad I missed that too, because I mean that's a legendary party.
That was literally the most insane week of my life. Just like there were 7 stages, and every stage was like a main stage at a huge festival, but they all catered to like a certain type of music. And I love so much different music that I could just go from stage to stage. And I was like, I don't want to leave. Like, this is awesome. But yeah, so I guess it's 2024. I don't know exactly what's in store, but I have, a lot of things that I really hope we can make happen. I'm really interested to see what happens with Pretty Lights touring again, and I'm hoping that we're able to throw the after parties. And I really want to like do more with them. I think this go around we did a great job, and definitely got to celebrate that. But we just got Night's Watch team involved with harm reduction for the last 2 events of the year that we did, and I really want them and more teams to be involved, in all of the after parties we do moving forward. I definitely want, my goal is really just like fan growth with all my artists. Like, I tell people this all the time. The number one thing artists should and can do is get more fans. And the way to do that is to engage with them, release music, and play shows when you can. So you'll see a lot of new music from all my artists, January, February, March, April, May. The first half of this year, everyone has been just working so hard the last 6 months to prepare a lot of new music, to really kind of level up in everything they're doing. So I think the number one thing I'm most excited for is all of the music coming out over the next several months from all of our team. I'm really excited to see our shows grow. We've got a lot of really exciting announcements in the DC area for all the shows we're doing. We're trying to bring even more artists out, even bigger events. And yeah, really just, like I've been saying, consistent growth. I'm not like, we don't need to headline Red Rocks next year, but we just want to keep growing, and we want to see where it all goes. And I'm hoping maybe some more international bookings in 2024. A goal of mine is to connect communities, not just in North America, but, around the world. So I've been talking to a lot of friends in Australia, New Zealand, hoping to find some people in Japan, all around Europe. And, I think there's a big potential because there's so many communities like you, like me, like all of our teams all around the world who want to support each other and want to be able to bring all of these artists out that, are just doing what they love to do and chasing their passions. And if we can connect each other around the world, then I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Love that. Yes, sir. Well, on that note, man, just thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for all you do for your artists and the community. Thanks for having Gravitas be part of the after hours for Pretty Lights. Thank you for bringing Josh Teed to us. We're really excited. I'm listening to some demos from Beat Kitty. Huge fan of Michael Minert.
Heck yeah.
And into Star Fox and K-Lab. We actually hung out in Vegas not too long ago at the Area 15 Arcadia Festival, and he is a riot, man. That guy, he will make you laugh. So excited to just develop these relationships and bridge this community and grow together. So big love. Thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Yeah, back at you. Big love to you. Thank you to the whole Gravitas team and, all the people you're supporting and, helping just kind of bring in to do the thing with us. Cause, it's so much, you can go fast by yourself, but you can go farther with all of your friends.
Love that. All right, bud. Have a good one. Talk soon.
Sweet. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Peace.